everyone. I'm so glad that you've made it. Thank you for coming, and thank you for being patient, because we didn't start till everyone got here. I didn't take out my notes yet, so excuse, I don't want to forget anything. My first question is, has anyone been in a finished passive house? Oh, a good number. I haven't. I'm on the inside of the next passive house. Bear with me 2 seconds, please, because I don't want to forget anyone or anything. I'm just going to have to go ad lib. So,
Call it Alien Kent Mobile.
oh. No, Ailey.
Siri, no.
So a passive house, just a couple of things that people who live in passive houses say. They love how quiet it is. It's super quiet once you close the doors and the windows, because there's a seal around the whole house. Not a seal, but a seal around the whole house. But what I like most of what I've heard about passive houses is that it's a consistent heat and a consistent cooling at all times. I don't know about anybody else in this room, but I am constantly going like this with the thermostat in my house. Off, on, heat, hot, cold, right? Oh, it's obnoxious. But, so there's a lot of other good benefits to find out about a passive house, and that's why we're here today. We have a dynamite team that's working here at 409 Sackett. We have Ingui Architecture, which is the mind behind the design, the finishes, and the passive house technique, which is, you will see, Michael Ingui will point out different techniques as we, or benefits as we go through today. I also want to thank Betim, where are you, from JBZ Construction. If you notice as you walk through the house, the construction is tight. It's really, really solid, really good. So you got 2 winners right there, architect and contractor. And then the developers, this is their showcase house. This is their first house, and they are making it their showcase. So they didn't skimp on anything. They didn't skimp behind the walls. They didn't skimp inside the walls. If you can look here, you'll see there's some samples of finishes, and as we walk through later, you'll see the bathrooms have finishes as well. And for all you brokers that are always saying, how much is it? How much is this house? This house is $10,550,000, and you will find inside this package other passive houses that have traded in the last couple of years. And you can see their cost per square foot as well. So that's pretty much all I have to say. Michael Ingui's here. Mark is here from Ingui Architecture. I can't see. Mark is back there. We have Kirsten here. And we have one other person, but I can't. Claire. So not only is Michael a know-it-all about this house, you can find them as well afterwards if you have questions. And Neely, who's videoing here, she's my right-hand person. And oh my goodness, yes.
I heard you talk about like consistent temperature, which is good. But what makes it a passive house?
Hold on, I am not the pro.
I'm sorry.
Michael Ingui is the pro.
Okay.
He will answer all your questions. I just need to thank 2 more people first. Kristen Hodges, she's in the back. She's from Wells Fargo. She brought lunch today. So when you see her, thank her for lunch. And Kayla Dobbs from Pro National Title. She also provided lunch today. So enough of me. And let's hear it for Michael Ingui from Bax Ingui. And it's all yours.
So one quick thing, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
You guys hear me in the back?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So you're gonna hear me sniffling all day. It's life. I'm not sick. I just had nasal surgery last week, and it's probably gonna be a couple of weeks before I can fully breathe better, but I still breathe so much better than I have over the last 5 years. So that's why I'm gonna sniffle. I'm not sick. couple things. Ingui Architecture used to be Bax Ingui Architects. For those of you who know my partner Ben, who is 80, he just celebrated his birthday. He is still working with us. Ben likes to work on 1 or 2 projects a year and not have anybody call him. He wants to basically pick and choose his jobs. He'll be working with us forever, and that's why it name's off the door, and he can kind of focus on what he wants. A little jealous, kind of fun. But we are a 26-person firm, including Ben. The way we work in our office is we work in teams. We have a bunch of principals. Mark, who's in the back, I don't know why he's not in the front, this is really his baby. It's not mine. And each one of our principals have 3 or 4 babies or projects, sometimes 5 or 6. Some of them are small. The type of projects we take tend to be projects where people really care about the design and want to do some fun stuff. And we like to do everything from soup to nuts, from when people usually way before they buy houses, we walk through the houses with them, help them with budgets and timelines. And then we also have an in-house interior design firm, Claire, who is in the back as well, is BIA Interiors. We brought interior design in with Heather Gallo, who's now passed away, about 8 years ago, and it has changed our whole practice. I don't know why we didn't do it originally. We do a lot of interior architecture. It's what we do. Everything's integrated, and it's so easy to design stuff that can't be furnished. So coming to a little bit more about what we do, we do high-end residential. We do lots of other kinds of things. We're doing a bunch of houses out east now, a bunch of houses upstate. We just finished a bike shop. We just finished a warehouse that was kind of fun upstate. But for the most part, we do a lot of high-end residential, and a lot of them are townhouses. We probably have like, right this second, again, we have 6 teams, we need that many projects. Probably have like 10, 15 full townhouses going on within 20 blocks of this house. And a lot of them are really fun, and a lot of them are passive houses. And so people ask me, why doesn't everybody do a passive house? In my opinion, the only reason you're doing a high-end renovation that is not a passive house is because you didn't know it existed. Because there's 0 reason not to do a passive house. So, and what I like about doing these kind of things now is you just can't, in our projects at least, tell that it's a passive house. And there's no reason to. It's crazy. The only reason you can tell is there's no radiator here. There's no ductwork here. There's no soffit here. There's none of that garbage that you would have here. I have no boiler. I have no boiler flue. I have millions of thermostats. The import heating is useless. There's so many things I don't have, but you don't notice them. And eventually what will happen is we'll put really beautiful finishes in, which is what you see in the renderings, and you won't know what's behind the wall. So the question is, how do you do a passive house? What's the biggest difference between a passive house and another house? And what I would say is, it's just better construction, and that's why even all of our houses that maybe are not certified, even those houses have the passive house techniques, because once you learn them, it's kind of hard to forget not to do them, and I can describe them very quickly. And maybe I'll just kind of start from scratch. So when I walk through with a client and they're looking at a house and I know it's a gut renovation, by the way, you can do it on a knock-out renovation, we'll get to that in a second. I usually ask them, if you want a house that's sealed from bugs and dust, we can do a passive house. If you want to have a house that has filtered fresh air 24/7, we could do a passive house. If you don't want to hear any street noise, we can do a passive house. And I would say those 3 things, people never get past the bugs and dust. But people didn't know you could have those things, especially in New York City, where no bugs and dust because you're sealing the walls. You're not, when you think about a typical house, a typical bathroom, or a typical kitchen, a typical bathroom exhaust fan, you just flick the switch, has 150 cubic feet per minute. When you see the CFM thing on the box, cubic feet per minute that's coming out of that bathroom. A typical high-quality kitchen exhaust fan is 1,200 cubic feet per minute. So you can imagine all those cubes piled up here per minute leaving the house. It's how all that harmful gas and fumes comes up. When you take that air out of the house, that air has to come in the house. Whatever comes out, comes in. And the way it comes in is it comes through all the little cracks and crevices that you would never put your finger near. And it just sucks it in. And what it does is it sucks in the construction debris. It sucks in whatever your neighbors have next door. It creates these pathways for lots of things with legs. And you're getting your filtered fresh air from cracks and crevices. And that's the way all these houses were done. And the way we test the passive house is we do a blower door test, which sounds technical, but it's not. This door is too big for it. We do it in the front door. But a blower door is a big red door it's nylon with a fan at the bottom, thus a blower door, and you pressurize or depressurize the house at the beginning and end. And what you do is you can see and find all the leaks. We're going to do our first blower door in this house in 2 weeks. That blower door is not to pass the test. That blower door is to find leaks. So even in teams like Betham's, and Betham's done some really kick-ass projects for us, I mean, we're going to find almost no leaks. But that step by itself is a step we never took in houses. We never put a blower door on. We never tried to figure out where the leak was. So we're looking for air leaks because we're looking for building performance. But an air leak is also a water leak. It's also a raceway for mice or rodents or other things. And so the blower door will go in the front door, and we are looking for less than one air change per hour in this house. And the house, when we started, had 15 air changes per hour. Most of the houses that you see, no matter where they are, unless they've sealed them, have that many air changes per hour, which is why you get a lot of that. You still get the dust in the house. You still get everything that's on the outside. So, enough about that. Well, not really. Once you've sealed the house well enough, so like I'll think about a runner's jacket. So runner's jackets are not heavyweight jackets. They're lightweight jackets, but they still perform incredibly well in the winter. And the reason for that is they first block out the wind, but they're still vapor open because you wouldn't want to run in a plastic bag, you'd be sweaty. The materials that seal the outside walls here are vapor open, which means it lets vapor go in and out. So you're not living in a plastic bag. There's no unhealthy house syndrome or whatever, sick house syndrome. Everything's vapor open. But once you've sealed it so the air can't get in and the drafts can't get in, and you do a few other things like no thermal bridges. We're going to start to get into like what is a passive house. So you're starting to see they use plywood as their air barrier. There's a few things you can use this. They use this incredible tape as their tape. You know, you go into a lot of houses, they're just using caulk here, or like they've stuffed some insulation in there. It's not going to work. This door is so incredibly well sealed by itself. This door performs better than most exterior walls. So I live in a passive house. I wear my shorts all winter. I don't have winter pajamas. My heat's not on, by the way. We'll talk about that in a second too. And then, so the next thing we do is the first joist we pull in by basically one piece of insulation. And we put a piece of insulation on the outside walls. One of my guiltiest things that I've learned through passive house, because we never used to do that. Structural engineers will teach you, put your first joist tight up against the wall, tie it in so your wall doesn't pop out. But what happens is, in the cold will hit the brick. It'll hit that first joist, it'll hit the floor, second joist, hit the floor, third joist. So when you stand next to a lot of outside walls, and beautiful, incredible building, I mean, we do monster buildings in Manhattan. We spent so much money in these houses, but I didn't know about thermal bridges at the time. And they're cold. And 40% of what those radiators are doing, these monster radiators, is they're heating the outside walls. They're 40% of just heating all this stuff, just wasting all that money, because if I don't, I'm screwed. And even then, the floors are cold. So one thin, cheap, truly cheap piece of insulation and pulling the joist in means I've got no thermal bridge. So like a thermal bridge, if I'm holding a hot coffee cup, I'll burn my hands. But if I have like the coffee cups we all use, where it has 2 layers, they've broken the thermal bridge. Same thing in a house. Super simple, super cheap. You just have to remember to do it. It's like one extra step. So I've got a sealed wall. I've got no thermal bridges, and then I have to put enough insulation. Now this is not a massive wall, just 4 inches of insulation here. In these old townhouses, we cannot over-insulate these. If you were to look up passive house online, you're gonna see like monster thick walls. People brag about how thick the walls are. In these houses, the exterior old brick is used to getting a little bit of moisture and heat from the inside. You've gotta let some through, otherwise you'll get, you'll create some issues with your bricks. So you're only getting like 4 inches of insulation, and then you've got a service cavity and you've got your sheetrock. When I'm done with this, nobody's gonna know anything I just said. And nobody really cares, because you're not gonna be able to see it. But what you are gonna be able to do is not have any heat on in your house. So I just created a situation with what I just described, or we just created a situation where the house is so well insulated, the doors and walls perform so well, and the cold is not making it into the thermal bridge that I don't need any heat. It's just it's a really cool thing. Last year I used my heat like 2 or 3 weeks at night, and then I had to turn it off. If I have a party, like a New Year's party, my doors are open. That's the coolest thing. Like we have a door very similar size. I'd say it lives open almost all year. You're gonna like have this indoor outdoor, just because I'm just not that worried about losing heat. And even then, we put the heat on the lowest floor because it rose and it was enough for the whole house. It's just amazing how little heat you need. Yet one more thing that people didn't know you can have in New York, and that's why the grill isn't cut in yet, but there's going to be one grill right there, and there's another grill on the other side. That will be all the heating that you'll need for this entire floor. And that same unit is the air conditioning, so it's less mechanicals. So let's talk a little bit about that. So the mechanicals in a passive house, because now I don't really need any heating. You still have to, and in New York City and everywhere around here, you're gonna have to dehumidify. And then everyone in the universe from now on should only be designing for better buildings, but we all have to design really only for cooling. And which means I've got a washer where my son is, I've got to do some decorative shading on the outside of my house so my son doesn't get in so easily. And I've got to do some good shading, good windows, but the cooling's got to work and the dehumidification's got to work, because that's just the world we're in, and it's going to get hotter, and there's nothing we can do about it. Now, we can build better buildings, but we're still going to get hotter. So we are designing for that now. We are designing for temperatures that are 5 years or 10 years from now. It's still got to perform well. So, but there's still these little tiny units. So so we got rid of our boiler. So now what do? So we're using, you know, the little tiny units that you see, like the wall hung Mitsubishis or Daikins or Fujitsus. The same unit that they have on the wall, you can hide them in closets. They don't need plastic decoration, but that same unit lives in the soffit above here. It's just, again, not cut in so you can't see it, and that'll have the little grill. So there are these little tiny units that provide just enough air conditioning, and they all come with heating. You cannot buy these things without heating. So they'll provide just enough heat. Now, would I heat a typical townhouse with that system if I wasn't doing a passive house? Yes, we do it all the time. But our clients know they're going to pay through their nose for their heat because the house isn't well sealed and it's very expensive to heat that way. But if I only need it for something, who cares? I barely need heat. What's the big deal? So you'll have one up there, and that'll be the whole thing for this whole floor. I've got the same thing downstairs, and then I only need a little tiny unit in the back. And that's all you need for the heating and the cooling in the house, which is very cool. Once you do that, now I'm electrified. I don't need my gas boiler. So now I can start to make other decisions. Everybody likes different things. In this house, we have a gas range, which is usually where the conversation starts for me. You can do a gas range. Once I do a gas range, if I can keep my hot water heater out of my envelope, I'll do a gas hot water heater, but you can do an induction range, which a lot of our clients do. I have one. We can do an electric heat pump hot water heater, which I have, which works really well. And you can do an electric heat pump dryer. The Whirlpool and some of the other companies that make the heat pump dryers, they are the literal same unit with the same controls, with the same size drum. It's just the heat comes from a different source. They take about 20 minutes on a full load longer than a typical dryer to dry, but besides that, there's zero difference. In this particular house, we always start the conversation with, do you want a gas range? Because once I have a gas range, all of a sudden I get to do other things that I might not do if I didn't have a gas range. So they have a gas range, so we have a gas hot water heater, and we've got our thing, or we've got everything else, they can confirm that. So anyway, so that's in general kind of a passive house. Now I'm going to kind of go into it, if you don't mind, into the construction details, because I think it's a lot easier than most people would think. And when you walk through, you'll be able to see that. So below and this will start to get into, can you do some of these things in houses that you're not gutting? And the answer is yes. So below the cellar slab, most of the houses we walk into are removing the cellar slabs. Most of the houses, unless someone has already put in a real cellar slab, most of these houses have these little thin slabs. So when we replace the cellar slab, we're putting this plastic layer in. It's like a pool liner. The company that we use here is Stego. It's a Stego wrap, and it's a yellow wrap that goes below the concrete, and it basically terminates at the side walls. That doesn't allow the moisture to come up. So all of a sudden, these horribly moist, horrible cellars, I don't get the moisture to come up, but I also get other things that want to come up, which is kind of cool. The other thing is, where we have room, and especially in our certified passive houses, we always do it, we put a layer or two of insulation below that slab. So now I don't have moisture coming up through that slab. The next thing is I don't want to have that slab too cold. And I want it to stay at a typical temperature, the temperature of the room. And so then I'll do 2 layers of insulation, and then I'll pour my concrete. There's nothing I just said that was expensive. So we do that on every house now. Like at any house that we can do it, sometimes we can't fit the insulation, which is really a bummer. But we can do the pool liner no matter what. I'll call it a pool liner because it's the easiest thing to talk about. And then what that does is it terminates either with a metal termination bar or something else. You see it downstairs on the side walls with this coating. This is made by Stowe. This has been around forever, but there's like 5 companies who make a very similar product, and it's 3 layers of this coating that basically seals the walls. It seals all around the joists. And you'd say, well, is the passive house more expensive? Yes, it is. In a high-end renovation, the only thing that's really more expensive is the air sealing on the sidewalls, because it's the thing that we weren't doing on a lot of other houses. I will tell you, though, you cannot get no bugs and dust without doing that, and I can't tell you any client that I've ever described this to who wanted to get that up.
Hold in for a second. For people that can't see, it's the yellow over here. It's the yellow sealant. If you can't see around the corner.
Sorry. Yeah, good, thanks. Yeah, so it's a yellow sealant that's on the sidewalls. So I've got the sealant there, and I've got the plywood, and I've got the plywood here. So basically, that pool liner ties to this, and this goes all the way up. And then you can see these little holes that are right here. Then they blow in insulation. This is cellulose insulation. So it's recycled jeans and stuff. And that gets densely packed with insulation. The reason why that's better than spray foam, which does work well, is the densely packed cellulose, when these buildings move, and they'll move all day long, they'll move forever, the cellulose is so packed that it'll move with the building. So it's always packed, and if you miss a little piece of insulation, it's not just that you're gonna get some cold air through there, you won't even know it, you'll get moisture through there. So all of a sudden, like maturation. So again, you wanna create these buildings where they're healthy, and where you're not getting a sick building syndrome, and what you wanna do is keep that moisture out. So then you simply bring that all the way up to the roof, you wrap it, and you're done. I'm already buying better windows. Now, what's cool about these, they're triple pane. This is a company called Icon, great window company, Brooklyn based. They make the windows in Poland. Triple pane for performance, energy performance, 2 of those panes are laminated glass. They're doing that because we want to block some of the sun rays, and we want energy performance. But if I had a client come to me and tell me they want security glass in their windows, I would do 1 pane laminated, and that would be security glass all day long. And this has 2 layers of that. So in terms of just safety and security, they're really, really safe. All of these doors, front and back, whether it's a sliding or not, and these windows, all have triple point locks. They're doing it for energy performance. But for security, I mean, you work really hard to get into some of these doors and windows, like really hard. There's got to be an easier way, cutting through the roof. You know, you're breaking the windows somehow. It's really difficult to get through these. So you wind up getting this really well sealed house. These perform really well. I use these passive house windows and doors even on projects that aren't passive, only because I can't get doors and windows this big in the American market right now, and in the European market, if they can fit it into a container, I can get it. So we've become quite addicted to large windows and glass, and then we make sure that we put them in the right place. So north facing, I'm not getting any sun. We would be crazy in a typical house to have north facing glass without any heat anywhere near it. And to have these, but in this house it doesn't matter because they're going to perform so well. We do our big walls of glass in the north, which is kind of cool. So anyway, that's I mean, I can answer questions in the passive house, but as you go through, that's what you're going to see. So kind of just the review. It's a really dumb house. It doesn't need a lot of mechanicals. It's a set it and forget it thing. You set your thermostat to whatever you need it to be, 71, 69, who cares, and you leave it, and it just does that. Sorry, filtered fresh air 24/7. You're going to see the ERV tubes. You know, like that red thing, another guilty thing that we never knew existed 10 years ago. Filtered fresh air 24/7. So in every living space, you are getting fresh air pumped in 24/7. Very low velocity. It doesn't cost a lot to run. And in every space like kitchens and bathrooms, you're having an exhaust port like this, removing air 24/7. And then when you want, instead of putting on the exhaust fan, you press a boost switch, and that whole system for 15 minutes goes into boost, and it boosts the whole house for 15 minutes. So you wind up getting filtered fresh air changes 24/7, and you can really tell when you're in the house. It's amazing. So yeah, you can have the windows and doors open all the time to get the fresh air, but if I really wanted even more filtered fresh air, these ERV systems, Energy Recovery Ventilator, it's called that versus a fresh air system for different reasons, but it's basically a fresh air system. That gives you really great filtered fresh air. And let's talk about that a little bit more. We did a house on Clinton Street where we had a client who's very technically minded and likes tracking everything in the house, which is helpful for me. It's good to learn. And he tracked the last fire we had in Canada last year, and where everybody's getting smoke conditions, and the particulates in the house without any charcoal filters at all, which we're putting on a lot of these houses. The particulates in the house were like almost nothing. And then for fun, he changed his filters to see like what would happen, and it went down even more. But in all of our other houses, that same smell of fire was everywhere. You just couldn't get away from it. So again, we wind up becoming these really, really quiet, healthy homes. So as you walk through, I'm going to describe the house. We talked about past house. So we restructured this whole house. New stairs, new slab, new everything. We did that because we wanted these nice big open floors. There's a powder room right here. So it's a living, dining, kitchen. Very often what we're doing is we're creating these rear staircases, which is not installed yet, but this rear staircase is going to come here. This is double-story piece of glass right here, so you can always kind of experience the yard. We want it so that as soon as you walk through, you can kind of see the yard. There'll be a balconette right here, and then below us, that allows us living, dining, kitchen to connect seamlessly with a really large family room downstairs. And what we did in this house, which is cool, is we went down just one step, 7 inches. I know it doesn't seem like a lot, but when you're down in the garden level, you're gonna tell like it feels like a lot. So all of a sudden we've got these nice big garden levels. When you walk in the garden level, it's your guest bedroom and bathroom, and then some storage, and then this family room. So it's a really nice experience no matter how you're walking through. We don't remove this stair very often, the one that's over here, just because when you're walking in, you don't, because that's a family entry very often, you don't want to have to run all the way to the back to run all the way to the front. If it opened up the design somehow, we get rid of that stair, but for the most part, we keep that stair. And then upstairs, the rear, this house really ends here. So what's cool about the additions is the primary bedroom is right above us. It's got this fun bathroom in the front. You walk right through the closets and you'll see it. But the back is this nice big wall glass where you've got the bed here and you can just kind of see the whole yard, and you get this whole private roof deck. So there's a lot of fun things that are happening in the house. It was a great layout. It's got a great cellar where we dug down to get extra ceiling height. So a lot of the things that we always want to do in these houses, we got to do in this one. We had a client who was really interested in it. Top floor where the kids' floors are, kids' rooms. We've been able to extend it all the way up to the roof. Again, we don't really need to insulate it so bad up there because we're doing insulation above the roof. So another crazy thing or easy thing you can do when you're doing a new roof, instead of doing all the insulation below the roof in the joist bay or in an attic, well, what if I just put some inexpensive, again, some of this stuff's just really easy, you just have to remember to do it, layers of insulation above the roof, and then I put my roof on that, so the heat never makes it into the house. The sun rays hit that insulation and never make it through. There's no reason for a hot attic. I don't need it. It's actually detrimental. So, so that's in this house as well. So as you go through, you'll kind of see all the spaces. Anyway, I don't know if I forgot anything, but if anybody has any questions.
Where does the intake, the air circulation system, where does it come in from outside?
So the ERV?
Yeah.
Hey Mark, is it down here or up there? Yeah, it's on the roof. We have two of them, right? Yeah, so on the roof you'll see 2 ducts. And the intake and outtake will be 10 feet apart. So we'll put them on the roof and we'll make sure that they're 10 feet apart so you're not stealing from one or the other.
Do you ever use geothermal pumps for heating and cooling or no?
Not here. But the geothermal I think makes a lot of sense when I need heat. But if I don't need heat, all of a sudden it doesn't monetarily make a lot of sense. I really want to use one because we have a geothermal company who now has a rig that will fit in an 8-foot ceiling. So where I would never have done it in the past, because how do I get that into a townhouse and how do I do it without my neighbors wanting to kill me? I can now do that in Brooklyn. It's a guy out in Chicago who has a geothermal rig that's only 8 feet tall and comes in pieces. But it just doesn't pay outside of the city where I'm not dealing with lots of rock and it's super cheap and I can drive a rig in, every day.
So like, once you test it to make sure that everything is sealed tight, is it one and done, or does it over time, does that